What if the biggest threat to Tesla isn't another American startup, not a European luxury brand, but a silent engine strategy rising out of China? For years, the world believed the electric vehicle race was simple: build better batteries, cut costs, increase range. But while Western automakers were focused on catching up to Tesla, China was building something much deeper, something structural, a system designed not just to compete, but to dominate. And now, that strategy is beginning to show its true power. Because this isn't just about cheaper cars, it's about control over the motor, the battery, the software, the supply chain, and eventually, the future of transportation itself. But that wasn't how it started. 2 decades ago, China wasn't thinking about global EV domination. I was thinking about survival. Cities like Beijing and Shanghai were choking under thick smog. Oil imports were rising fast. Energy security became a national concern. The government realized something most countries didn't want to admit. Whoever controls the next generation of transportation controls economic power. So instead of protecting old gasoline giants, China made a bold move. It invested in electric mobility early, when most of the world laughed at the idea. In 2001, under the National 863 program, massive funding flowed into clean tech and high-tech development. Later came the new energy vehicle policy, offering subsidies, tax incentives, and manufacturing support. Consumers were encouraged to buy EVs, companies were pushed to build them. Risk was rewarded. And then came the real pressure tactic. In 2017, China introduced its dual credit system. Automakers were required to produce a certain percentage of electric vehicles. If they failed, they had to buy credits from companies that succeeded. The message was clear: build EVs or pay for it. That policy didn't just stimulate production, it forced transformation. But even that wasn't the masterstroke. Instead of starting with luxury sedans, China electrified public transport. Shenzhen converted its entire bus fleet, nearly 16,000 buses, to electric by 2017. That wasn't just a technical achievement, it was psychological. It proved that large-scale electrification could work. And while other countries debated infrastructure, China quietly built it. Today, the country has millions of charging points. In major cities, charging is as common as fuel stations. Range anxiety? For many Chinese drivers, it barely exists anymore. But the real power wasn't in the chargers. It was in the battery. Because whoever controls the battery controls the EV. China understood this before most Western companies did. That's why companies like KITL and BYD didn't just assemble cars. They mastered battery production, lithium processing, cell manufacturing, pack integration. And when you control the battery supply chain, from raw material contracts in Africa and South America to final assembly, you don't just reduce costs, you gain leverage. That leverage is now reshaping the global auto industry. But here's where things get even more interesting. Most people think EV performance is about horsepower numbers. But electric dominance starts with something much smaller: the motor. BYD's strategy is a perfect example. Unlike many automakers that outsource key components, BYD builds almost everything in-house: batteries, semiconductors, motors, control systems. This vertical integration slashes costs and tightens optimization. Its permanent magnet synchronous motors deliver instant torque with remarkable efficiency. No waiting for RPMs, no gear lag. Press the pedal. Full power hits immediately. That instant torque changes perception. A modestly powered EV can feel faster than a larger gasoline engine because power delivery is immediate. Look at the BYD Seal. The dual-motor variant delivers acceleration comparable to sports sedans at a fraction of the cost. The Auto 3 offers family practicality with strong performance. And the Seagull, one of the most affordable EVs on the market, proves you don't need a high price tag to get solid power. This is where Western automakers start losing sleep. Because China isn't just making fast EVs, it's making affordable fast EVs. And affordability changes everything. But performance alone doesn't win wars. Battery chemistry does. For years, many Western automakers relied heavily on nickel-manganese-cobalt batteries. High energy density, good range, but expensive. And cobalt, politically and ethically complicated. China doubled down on lithium iron phosphate, LF, especially through innovations like BYD's Blade battery. It doesn't require cobalt. It's cheaper. It's thermally more stable. It may offer slightly lower energy density, but for mass-market vehicles, it's often the smarter trade-off. That decision allowed Chinese EVs to undercut competitors on price without sacrificing safety, and scale amplified the advantage. Gigafactories across China produce batteries in enormous volumes. When production scales, costs fall. When costs fall, prices drop. And when prices drop, market share grows. But here's the uncomfortable truth most EV marketing doesn't highlight. Battery production isn't perfectly clean. Lithium extraction can consume massive amounts of water. Cobalt mining, especially in the Democratic Republic of Congo, has raised serious labor concerns. Deforestation, soil degradation, community displacement. The EV transition reduces tailpipe emissions. But upstream, the story is more complex. China's dominance in battery manufacturing means it also carries significant environmental responsibility. Recycling initiatives are expanding. Closed-loop battery recovery systems are being built. Second-life applications, using old EV batteries for grid storage, are gaining traction. Still, as EV demand accelerates, raw material demand rises too. The green revolution has hidden trade-offs. And this brings us to the next potential disruption: solid-state batteries. If lithium-ion was the first chapter, solid-state could be the sequel that changes everything. Instead of liquid electrolytes, solid-state batteries use solid materials to conduct ions. That small shift could allow higher energy density, faster charging, and improved safety. Imagine 700 to 800 kilometers of range, charging in minutes instead of hours. Lighter packs, more stable chemistry. Several countries are racing toward this breakthrough: the US, Japan, and Europe. But China is moving aggressively here as well. Government backing, corporate R&D, scale-ready manufacturing plans. The pattern is familiar. Research, subsidize, scale, dominate. If China successfully commercializes solid-state batteries at scale before its competitors, the cost curve could drop just as dramatically as it did with LFP, and that would widen the gap even further. Meanwhile, Chinese EV brands aren't staying domestic. BYD, MG, NIO, and others are expanding rapidly across Europe, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Australia. In Norway, one of the most EV-friendly markets in the world, Chinese brands are gaining visibility. In Thailand and Indonesia, factories are being established locally. In Brazil and Chile, electric buses are already operating at scale. The strategy is simple but powerful. Offer more features at lower prices. Large infotainment screens, over-the-air updates, advanced driver assistance, competitive range, and then move fast. Chinese automakers release updates quickly. New trims, new variants, aggressive refresh cycles. While traditional automakers may take years between major redesigns, Chinese brands iterate rapidly. That pace keeps competitors constantly reacting. Of course, resistance exists. Security concerns, data privacy questions, trade tensions, tariffs, regulatory scrutiny. But even with political friction, the economic pressure remains. If a customer can buy an EV with solid performance, strong range, modern features, and a significantly lower price, brand loyalty becomes harder to defend. And this is the real shift. The automotive industry used to be about mechanical heritage, engine sound, legacy reputation. Now it's about batteries, software, semiconductors, and vertical integration. China recognized that shift early. Tesla disrupted gasoline. China is now attempting to disrupt Tesla. Whether it succeeds fully is still unfolding. Western automakers are investing billions into battery plants, supply chains, and software platforms. Governments are rolling out new incentives and protective policies. The race isn't over, but the landscape has changed. China isn't just building cars anymore. It's building an ecosystem. Control the battery, control the motor, control the raw materials, control the scale. And when all those pieces align, disruption stops being a possibility. It becomes a probability. The question now isn't whether China can compete in the EV world. It's whether the rest of the world can adapt fast enough to keep up. Because if the next breakthrough, whether it's ultra-cheap motors, mass-produced solid-state batteries, or even new hybrid innovations, hits the market first from China, the balance of automotive power could shift permanently. And that shift may already be underway.